Welcome to the Throwdown with Matt, a podcast celebrating the art of professional wrestling. We feature content such as live stream chats with wrestlers, promoters, and others involved in the industry. Tonight is episode 112 of the Throwdown, and my guest is pro wrestler slash actress slash stuntwoman slash motion capture artist slash entrepreneur and mom, the Island Girl Tracy Taylor. Tracy has been wrestling for about 23 years and was originally trained at Ohio Valley Wrestling by Nick Densmore. So, without further delay, let's throw down.
Let me talk to you. Yeah.
Throwdown Nation, we are live. It is a Tuesday night. We are rolling on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter /X, Facebook, and Twitch. It is episode 112 of the Throwdown with Matt, and today we are throwing down with a lady who is a pro wrestler slash actress slash stuntwoman and entrepreneur, the Island Girl herself, Tracy Taylor. How you doing tonight?
Good, aloha. How's it going?
Like I said before we went live, it's been a good day. It's been a really good day. And, for those of you that are watching this live, if you have questions or comments, just throw them in the chat and we'll either handle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started, Tracy, with the first and most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
I've been wrestling 23 years. I've been wrestling as long as my daughter has been alive.
Wow, that's you don't look old enough to have been in the business this long.
And I also have a 28-year-old son too, so he got to see me start my career as well.
Oh, that's cool. That is really cool. So who actually trained you?
Oh, gosh. So my first ever trainer when I started at OVW was Nick Densmore. A lot of people know him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eugene.
Yeah. So he was my very first trainer. I was in the beginner class, and we would go up to OVW and every Saturday and train with him for a couple of hours. And then we would go on the road and do shows.
Very cool. I always really thought it was a shame that Nick Densmore got saddled with that Eugene gimmick because he was such a talented wrestler, and he sort of got saddled with that, and it kind of haunted him, I think.
Well, if you really know the story behind it, it's kind of a cool story. So I don't really know the full details of it, but I do know that it's a really cool backstory. So if you can research into it and find out what that's all about, you'd be pretty okay, you'd be okay with it.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So in terms of the early portions of your wrestling training, what would you say was the most challenging aspect of professional wrestling for you to wrap your mind and body around?
Oh gosh, there was so much. When I first got into the business, I really didn't plan on ever becoming a pro wrestler. I kind of just fell into it. It was something that my husband at the time wanted to do. It was his dream to be a pro wrestler. And I just happened to be there with him, and he kind of wanted me to do it with him. So he asked me if I, would do this with him. And I said, yeah, I didn't have anything else to do. So the most challenging part at that particular time was doing this with two children. One was 6 and one was a year old. So at that time, there weren't too many wrestlers that had children trying to get into the business. There were none. And people thought that I was crazy trying to get into the business with 2 children. But we did it and we made it work. And I guess that at the time was the most challenging aspect, to wrap my mind around how I was going to get through training and these shows and taking my kids with me and my job, so
balancing everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, keeping all the plates in the air, so to speak.
Right.
So, this question actually a recent guest of mine talked about this, and he sort of had it as kind of a challenge for himself, and I sort of took the idea and incorporated it into my repertoire of questions, and that is, try to sum up your wrestling persona in 5 words.
5 words. Okay. Wrestling persona in 5 words. Soft on the outside, but tough on the inside. I don't know.
Like it.
That was.
Like it. I like it. Yeah. His whole idea was sort of the concept of the wrestling TED Talk, and basically how to do like an elevator chat and explain yourself to somebody.
Right.
So you mentioned that you've got your social media guy that kind of keeps you straight, but with all of your various irons that you have in the fire, what tips do you have for balancing everything and keeping everything straight?
One day at a time. One day at a time. And what I like to do in the morning is I like to make a list of everything that I have to do that day. Sometimes I don't get around to it because I do wake up at 4 in the morning and I got to train clients at 5, and my days just goes from there. But if I do get a chance to make a list in the morning, I go ahead and make a list of the most important things that I have to get done that day, and I just kind of go through my day and check one thing off at a time. And that's what I'm focused on, is like the thing that's coming at me first. I don't look ahead. Like if you're asking me what's for dinner tonight, that's just not going to be on the table. I'm sorry. Like even lunch is not going to be on the table. I don't even know what I'm having for breakfast yet, Yeah. So it's just one thing at a time, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day.
Yep. Just take life in manageable bites.
Right. And enjoy it, like just don't go through your day like just getting the tasks done. Like really go through your day and enjoy every second that you're doing it, because I feel like it lasts long. Your days last longer when you do that.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that you sort of got into being a wrestler sort of by virtue of being around your husband at the time. Did you grow up as a wrestling fan at all, or not really? Or in other words, do you remember being a fan as a kid?
As a child, I grew up watching Glow. So my sister and I would watch Glow, and I don't know if people like consider that wrestling, but I did at the time.
Yeah, I mean,
we would jump off our couches and act like we were wrestling each other, and just play wrestle in our living room. But we weren't in a household where we had boys, so we didn't watch the regular WWF or anything like that. So I was not a fan of that kind of wrestling. I didn't get to watch those type of shows at all, and I wasn't a fan at all until I got married, and I still wasn't a fan. My husband would watch it while I made dinner, and I would walk into the living room and go, "Oh, you're watching this again? Okay," and I'd go back and start cooking. But then something caught my attention, and it was Stephanie McMahon, and she was at the promo in the middle of the ring, and she was being her bratty self. And I was just intrigued, and I was like, who is that? And so he started explaining it to me, and then I kind of sat down and got into it, and I was like, well, what are they talking about? What's happening? What's going on? And then then I just got really hooked and interested in the storylines. So that's kind of how I started.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been a fan, varying levels of fandom at different points in my life, but since I was around 11, and I'm 55 now. So, I've been a fan of the business for 40 plus years, and it's been a fun ride. You know, I've gotten to be around for a lot of groundbreaking moments in the business. You know, I got to see the Monday Night Wars start to finish, got to see the rise and fall of ECW, you know, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
And I've got to say, you know, with the rise of independent wrestling, you know, in the last 10 to 15 years, especially, I mean, right now is actually one of the most exciting times to be a fan of the business because there is just so much and, you know, so many places now for guys and gals to work and hone their craft. You know, it is just very, very cool.
It
Um,
absolutely is. There's just so much going on, so many new people coming in at one time. It's hard to keep up sometimes.
oh, it is. It is. And you know, my wife is you know anything but a wrestling fan. But the interesting thing is, since I've started doing these live streams, she's gotten to the point now where she at least says that she understands why I'm a fan. You know, and you know she's really enjoyed some of these conversations, you know, and just actually getting to know the wrestlers as people on these. And so, you know, that's been exciting. I mean, you know, she'll never really be a fan, and I don't even particularly want her to be. You know, it's my thing. It doesn't have to be her thing. So,
Right, right.
but
It's
so,
kind of
oh, go
it's kind
ahead.
of hard. No, I was just gonna say it's kind of hard not to become one once you get into involved in it and like start really paying attention. It's hard not to want to follow it.
Oh, it is. It is. And you know, it's exciting. You know, I've been doing these wrestling live streams. It'll be a year in July. And it's really exciting and fun to, you know, after 40 years of loving this business to finally be a small part of it. You know,
Right,
it's really like a dream come true in a lot of ways.
right. And the years have just flown by for me so
Oh,
fast.
yeah. You know, our son is almost 16 now, and wow, I mean, you know, it's amazing. You know, they told us don't blink,
Yeah,
and
I know. I
I
know.
mean,
I remember.
it's
Yeah,
it's wild.
I remember my first day at OVW, and I had a playpen and two kids, and my son was watching my daughter in the playpen while I went and did drills, and I blinked, and all of a sudden now my daughter's wrestling, and my son is living on his own in Hawaii, and I'm here, traveling and still doing it. But it's crazy how fast
Awesome,
time went.
awesome. So outside of wrestling, what person inspires you the most, and why?
Outside of wrestling, who
Yeah.
inspires me the most? Gosh, so many people. Well, dang, that's a hard one. So many people that inspire me. I guess I would have to say right now, my son inspires me a lot. I watch him doing his thing. He's an artist. He's a tattoo artist, and I watched him go from just coloring with crayons to now doing major art, and his artwork is just phenomenal. And the way he lives his life in Hawaii, and it's not cheap over there either. And he's
Mm-mm.
doing it on his own. And for him to be making it there on his own with his girlfriend, I mean, I just think they're very inspiring because I'm not saying that they're not capable, but it's really hard to make it in Hawaii and they're doing it. So I just give them so much credit and they inspire me to just like hustle and keep going.
Gotcha. So, you know, they say that the best wrestling personas are essentially usually kind of yourself turned up to 11. So tell us about in-ring Island Girl and kind of compare and contrast her with everyday Tracy.
I wouldn't say they're very different. they're both, really nice until you rub them the wrong way.
Yeah.
And then, then they're both turned up, 100 notches. So, I mean, in real life, it would be if you rub me, a family member or a friend the wrong way, then I'm going to step in. I'm not going to be silent. I'm going to say something. In the ring, storyline wise, it's just whatever you do to disrespect the island girl or the islands um, is what's going to set me off.
Got you. Got you. So, it's obviously been a span of time since this took place, but tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going into it, thoughts coming out of it? Lay it on us. We want to hear about the first one.
I've told this story so many times. So my first match was at OVW, and I maybe had been into training maybe like a couple months, and we only went once a week, so it wasn't like I had all this experience. I didn't know an arm drag from a hip toss, okay? But I did know that as a professional wrestler, you're supposed to take your gear to every show, no matter what. Okay, you're supposed to always be prepared, which I did. And I had this outfit that I've never worn before, and I just had it just in case, And of course, Nick asked my husband at the time, "Does your wife have her gear?" And he said, "Yes, she does." And he goes, "All right, great. Tell her to put it on. She's going to have a match tonight." And my first match ever was with Jillian Hall. And it was the worst match ever of my life. I mean, probably of her life too. If she remembers that match. But I did, like I said, I didn't know a hip toss from an arm drag, and they made me a heel, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I know she was a little frustrated with me in the middle of the match, but I honestly did not know what I was doing, and I shouldn't have been in there. And, it takes me to like today's age, like people getting in the ring and not having any training. I'm just like, what the heck are you doing? Like, no, you should get that proper training, because without it, I know what it feels like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was awful.
So, I had something sprung to mind, and it just my train of thought just jumped the tracks. But it'll probably come back to me. But so we've heard about your first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of, if you can narrow it down. I'm sure there's been a lot, but
yeah, there's been a lot. I know there was a match with we had a match with Carlito one time down in, I want to say it was either Mississippi or Louisiana. That was really fun. It was a fun experience because he was himself. He was Carlito, and I got to try to spit the apple in his face. I missed him, hit my head, and then somewhere along the line, I got the apple spit in my face. So it was a really fun match. I really liked that match. So far, I think that's on the top.
Gotcha. I was just looking over at the YouTube tab, and Mike Robin is in there commenting.
So that's my social media guy. He's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
So I remembered what I was going to say when my train of thoughts jumped on me. You were talking about having your gear with you just in case. And, it sounds like just in case happened. I mean,
yeah.
so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it was kind of, at the time, it was like my worst fear. Like, I wanted to say no.
Right.
But he didn't ask me. He asked my husband at the time.
Yeah, you got voluntold.
Right.
So, and I know everybody has them, but what is your biggest in-ring pet peeve?
I know I have them. I know it. I guess don't do anything disrespectful without talking about it first. And I don't know if that's
Right.
giving away too much, but just don't do anything. And yeah, it's happened to me several times.
Yeah.
Doing something disrespectful that we didn't give the okay to, and
Yeah.
certain times that it happened, they were called out by other people. So,
Right.
I'm just the type of person that I won't say anything at the time, but I will talk to you about it later. But
Yeah.
I think their trainers got to them first.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they refer to that as going into business for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep. So, that's actually a great segue to my next question, because, I know that there are really kind of two and a half ways of preparing for a match. You can either work it out with your opponent in the back, call it in the ring, or kind of do a hybrid of both. Over the years, have you developed a preference, or is it kind of situational depending on who you're working?
I definitely think it's situational depending on who I'm working. But the way I was taught back in the day, it was to call it in the ring.
Hmm.
You were taught just to, you were taught counter maneuvers and how to protect yourself and how to work, how to tell a story, how to use
Right.
your psychology, how to hook the audience and engage them in your match, and not just do move for move for move and spot, spot, spot. It was all about telling a story. And that's basically why I never had to do any high flying, or I didn't have to, learn how to do all these crazy things, because I did learn how to storytell in the ring, and
Yep.
I really take pride in that, because it's not easy to be able to tell a story and to hook the audience and not have to do anything.
Right. Right. And I mean, it's sort of been the evolution of the business in general, but as the wrestlers, over the years have become increasingly athletic and this, that, and the other thing, I think that's been great in many ways, but you know, coming from, I guess, the old school, I feel like in some ways the increased athleticism has been to the detriment of the story. Um,
Well,
it gets in so many ways, in my mind anyway. The maneuvers in the ring have gotten so complex that there's a lot of focus on that.
yes,
So
I agree. I think that the girls are getting so much more athletic, so much more, acrobatic. Uh,
mhm,
but also, I feel like balance again. You need some of those. You need some of those matches. You need some of the storytelling matches. You need
right,
diversity. So I think there needs to be like they need to be careful as to only having those type of matches. They need to really have a balance of people that can tell stories, and then people that are athletic and acrobatic, because people want to see different things. They don't want to see the same thing over and over and over again. I feel like I don't want to see the same thing over and over and over again. I want to be entertained as well, like mentally connected and not
yep,
just visually.
right, right. And I definitely agree with you. Wrestling should be, for lack of a better term, again, sort of going back to an old school term here, a variety show. you know,
Mhm.
so
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I think, the more diverse you have it, the more entertaining the show is as a whole.
oh, for
So,
sure, for sure. Well, it sounds like you've worked in a lot of places and a variety of cultures. So, working in other countries and cultures, how have you handled language barriers and such when interacting with the fans and also working with local talent?
so I had a chance to work in several different countries, Mexico being one, Japan being the other, Canada, but there's no language barrier there. But
Right.
Japan, there was a lot of language barrier. When I went to train for the first time, nobody spoke English. I think there was one person that could like interpret a little bit. And the day that we had to go work out in the ring and put our matches together, we had to put a whole week's worth of matches together in one day. And then we would go on the road and perform them. So it wasn't like we got to work it out before the show. We worked it out the day of training, which was a completely different day in the week. And then we went on tour. So whatever you had written down in your notepad was what you had to memorize. And then I don't know if they were messing with me or whatever, but like right before the match started, they would come and say, oh, squishy, squishy, changey, squishy, squishy, change, and you're just like, what? They would tell you where they wanted to change it, and you're just like, okay, sure, no problem.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that would happen all the time. I'm like, I think they're messing with me.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds like, at least at times, I think you were getting ribbed.
Yeah. I think so too. So I was just like, okay, just let me know what's gonna happen. I don't know.
So, if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
I would say great on the mic. That's my weakest point, and I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at it, but that's always been a weak spot of mine. And I'm not afraid to speak on a microphone. I'm not afraid to talk out in front of people. But when it comes to promos, I need some direction. I need a storyline, and it just doesn't seem to be the case every time I get a microphone. Like every time I'm handed a microphone, I'm never like in a storyline. I'm never doing this. It's just, hey, just here's the mic, say something. And I'm like, okay, and I wish I was quick-witted so I could just come up with whatever and say something. So I would, right now, I'm in acting school, I'm in improv classes, and it's getting a lot easier for me. And now it's clicking. And so I wish I knew then what I know now, so I could have been that much better on the mic.
Gotcha. So do you have a preference between working heel or babyface?
I don't have
just kind of whatever the situation calls for.
Right. It's whatever the situation calls for. I have fun doing both, and I take a lot of pride in knowing that I can do both. I can change it up in just one little instant.
Right.
And people know me. Yeah, people know me so much as a babyface that when I do change it, they're just like, "Oh my God!"
And people that can do both convincingly are a special breed. And what I love are the people that can seamlessly transition from face to heel and back and really not change much about their character other than just subtle things to basically make the crowd receive them as the performer wants to be received, and that's magic. I mean,
right. It's fun too. I like it. And it's right now on the indies. In certain places I am a heel right now, and I am a face. So up north I'm more of a heel. Down south I'm more of a face. So it's really fun to be able to do both on the indies and it not kind of clash.
Gotcha. So, in terms of your in-ring work and your promos, who or what would you say are some of your influences?
Let's see. I loved watching Stone Cold Steve Austin cut promos. I loved watching The Rock cut promos. I guess those would be two of my favorites. Stone Cold, especially, because he just didn't care.
Yeah.
And he was very entertaining at the same time.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that you find yourself going back to, and you can just, it never really gets old, and you can always kind of pull something out of it.
Gosh, there's so many, and I can't say that I do have a favorite, but I do love going back because I wasn't a fan. I love going back to watching older matches with like Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and let's see, Shawn Michaels and all of them. I just enjoy watching the character work.
Oh yeah.
And when I was coming up, I would watch all of them to learn how to sell as well. The visuals, the body mannerisms, like how long they would sell, how long like their opponent would stalk them before they got back on them. It was just little things like that that I love to watch. And right now, I have a lot of I have a training school here, so we watch a lot of matches back just to kind of get ideas and so we can learn more.
Gotcha. So, you've been doing this for a good span of time. So, I don't know how much this question will apply, but this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent for you? Who would you love to have the opportunity to share a ring with that you haven't been able to share a ring with as of yet?
Well, I always wanted to work with all the old school girls. Trish Stratus, Lita, Victoria. I had an opportunity to work with Jazz. That was awesome. And I guess my all-time dream opponent would have been my daughter, but I had a chance to do that, so that was already checked off the book. But yeah, I would love to have wrestled any one of those girls. And today, like, I would love to have a match with Mickie James or Mercedes Martinez.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A a female wrestler who I have been extremely impressed with these last few years, and she actually just recently debuted in the WWE system, is Jordynne Grace. Are you familiar with her?
I am, yes.
She is amazing.
Yes.
I mean,
I remember her when she first started on the indies. I was already wrestling for quite some time, and when she first started, I think we did a match together somewhere down the line before she just blew up. And it was really great just getting to watch her her progression,
yeah,
where she started and like how and she hustled. She got out there.
she does. Yeah.
And I know exactly, what she had to go through to get to where she is today. I mean, she probably did shows for no money, and she traveled long distances and put herself.
The hot dog and a handshake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure being married to Jonathan Gresham has been a good thing as well, because it's basically wrestling 24/7 in that household, I'm sure. So.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
So, what is your favorite move? And what is something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you won't do or you would at least rather not do? And that can be giving or receiving.
So okay, I used to do motion capture for 10 years, and that was the video game
Right.
thing. And I used to have to do a lot of people's moves. And when I had to do a missile drop kick to someone without a crash pad, when I landed, looked up at the sky and said to myself, why would anybody want to do this move? And I said, never. No, thank you. This is not a move that I just want to do every night,
Yeah.
because it hurts. And I landed where you land, you're jumping off the top and you're landing not in the middle of the ring, but like on kind of the outside. It's a hard bump. And
Oh, it is.
having to do
Yeah.
that all the time because it's part of your signature routine. No, thank you. And one
Gotcha.
move that I love doing my barrel roll, and I love doing the surfboard. That's my signature move. My surfboard into my curb stomp. That's my finish. So
Nice.
if I can hit
Nice.
that, the crowd really loves it. They, when they see it for the first time, they're just like amazed because I'm actually, surfing on top of my opponent, and it's a fun move to watch.
Gotcha. So the motion capture work and your work, as a stunt person, were you doing that before your wrestling, or did it come about as a result of your wrestling? How did all that come about for you?
The motion capture.
Yeah.
So when I was under WWE developmental, we were at Deep South, and they were letting the developmental people go up to do motion
Mhm.
capture. And that was kind of a way for us to kind of get experience and just keep us working, I guess. So when we went up to California and we met the producer, Brian, he really took a liking to the way I could kind of emulate anybody. He would show me something on the screen, and I could just boom, knock it out. And he really liked how easy it was for me to just be able to do that. And so he remembered who I was, and there was a group of us that it was a core group that went all the time, and we just kept going all the time together for, gosh, I stayed there 10 years, but the rest of the crew kind of switched in and out, in and out, in and out. But as far as like the girls, they would bring a girl here and there to work with me, but every month I was the main girl that would go in and do the move sets and do the entrances. And I even got to do Vince McMahon one time. It was fun.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I even got to do Vicky Guerrero's voice on
Oh,
one of
wow.
the, yes. I was the one saying "excuse me" on the video game, and I think she even heard it. Somebody let her hear it, and she was like, "Oh my god, she sounds just like me."
Well, that's high praise.
Yeah.
So you've been, like I said, you've been doing this a while, so I'm sure that to some degree or another this applies. And so I'll ask, what hurts right now? Or should I say, what doesn't hurt?
My calves don't hurt. No, honestly, I don't even pay attention to what hurts anymore because I've lived with it for so long. I can honestly say I don't want to make her feel bad because I will take the blame. But my neck hurts really bad right now because it got landed on in a match. But it happens. Accidents happen and
Yeah.
things happen. But I already had a bad neck because I fell down some stairs backwards one time, and I had a really bad. That was a really bad accident, and it hurt my neck. But yeah, right now my neck is the worst. Other than that, I'm not too bad because I teach Pilates and yoga and stretching classes, and I do them myself. I practice what I preach. And I just think if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be in the shape I'm in right now.
The importance of flexibility,
Yes.
It's funny, I've mentioned this to a lot of guests during the time doing this. like I said, I'm a guy in his mid 50s, and the 50s have been a strange time. Your body starts doing weird things. Yeah, I've thrown my back out sneezing. I mean, and you'll step out of bed and suddenly something will twinge, and you're just like, what is going on? So,
I've
yeah.
heard that. I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
you've got a lot. You've got so much to look forward to.
yeah, I know. I'm seeing someone who is in his 50s, and he tells me that all the time. He's just like, "You wait till you're 50," and I'm like, "Oh, I have so long to go." No, I don't. I'm knocking on 50's door, but I'm just hoping that my routine and my regimen will continue to help me. But I know it'll catch up to me sometime or another.
Yeah, you know, uh, positive attitude has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm hoping so.
um, what is the most significant injury that you have suffered, either wrestling or training?
Uh, well, I would have to say there was one match where I blacked out, and I don't necessarily know what that was from. It was just something that happened, and it's unexplainable. Um, they said it was a mild concussion, um, but for the most part, I was, you know, supposed to win the match, and something happened where something snapped in the corner, and I got pinned, and I woke up, and the match was over. Um, but it happened so fast that I didn't know that I had blacked out. So I didn't realize that's what happened. But I don't know. It's unexplainable because I'm fine now.
Gotcha. So I was looking over at the chat, and somebody named Danny Ayambo posed a question that I put up on the screen. Uh, can you tell us when you felt you received a blow to the stomach and when? I'm not sure exactly. It kind of continues. Let me. Sometimes a kick blows stomach hurts very, very.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We get kicked a lot, so
Yeah. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool in wrestling, specifically independent wrestling?
um, I feel like social media is becoming more and more important as far as bookings go. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot more of well, this person's got more followers and this person is more popular, so we're going to use this person more. And I don't know, it just seems like if you're not popular on social media, you're just not popular. And I feel like it's hard for me because I'm not like, I never used to be a social media guru, and my son got me rolling in social media. And so when I started doing it, I felt like it was just hard because I have so many different avenues that I do, and I didn't
Hmm.
want to put them all in one niche because it would confuse people. I mean, if you're just seeing bartending, makeup, wrestling, gym, spa, it's all over the place. So, I mean, I have like six different social media pages, but as far as wrestling goes, I feel like social media is so important. Like you have to put yourself over. You have to keep it up or else nobody is going to pay attention.
Right. Yep. So, knowing everything you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Um, don't care what people think about you. Do what it is you want to do and have fun and go out there and be sexy and you know uh, have fun and just I don't know, enjoy it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I feel like too many people end up, unintentionally usually, but you can end up being your own worst enemy by letting all of those voices into your head. And yeah,
Yes.
and start listening too much to the opinions of people that ultimately really don't matter a whole lot.
Right. Right. Yeah. I just think if I came out of my shell a lot sooner, um, you know, I think I would be a lot further.
Well, I'm of the opinion that, you bloom where you're planted, and, and I feel like we're all where we're supposed to be from one minute to the next. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that somewhat, because I feel like I'm enjoying where I am right now. And so,
mhm,
and I don't know if I would be enjoying any other place than where I am. Because
gotcha.
when I was under developmental, it was a stressful world. It was very stressful. It was, my anxiety was always high. I was afraid to talk to anybody. I was afraid to say anything. I was afraid to say the wrong thing. And now it's just, I'm just being myself, and it's fun, there's no worries. So I
Yeah, I
do.
mean, the the WWE, or at least, the big three companies, is kind of everybody's dream, but to some extent it's such a pressure cooker that, yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah,
You
be
have to,
careful what you wish for
yes,
sometimes.
yes. And if you're ready to go in there, you better know you're ready, and you better be in there with confidence, because you're gonna get eaten up and spit out.
Yep, yep. So, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
Um, well, I try to wish my opponent luck and make her feel comfortable, and just tell her, we're gonna have a great match, and I always do that. Um, Not really. I mean, just that, and I try to stretch a little bit before I go out. Try to just clear my head, and I don't know. Yeah. Before, I think I had a lot more anxiety than I do now going out. Like, I used to be a lot more nervous than I am now. Now I'm just like, all right, it's us. Let's go. you know,
Yeah.
like, good luck, have fun, and see you when we're done.
Yep. See you on the other side. So, this question is a relatively new one. Somebody actually, one of my guests posed this, and I just thought it was a neat question, so I'm incorporating it into my list here. And that is, give us a quick rundown of what you carry in your gear bag. Do you carry anything unusual, or is it just pretty much standard stuff, or is there anything special?
Um, I don't think there's anything special. I mean, I have all my I have two sets of gear. I have my boots. I have wrist tape. I have. I always carry snacks with me. I always carry my Welch's gummies with me. Um, and okay, so I do now carry double sided tape, which
Hmm.
I never used to do, because I had a hard lesson in that, of
Ah.
not using double sided tape. Yeah. I went to an indie show, and was wearing this top, and I I wasn't secure, and I jumped down from the ring, and my top came off when I
Uh,
jumped down, and
Wardrobe malfunction. Yep.
yeah, it was, luckily, like, back then there was no social media. There was no, like, people, they didn't have cell phones. I guess back then they might have had pagers, and, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if they had flip phones back then, but I don't think so. But luckily, yeah, there was no, like, none of that, or else it would have been all over the place. Because,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I did
Uh,
learn. carry your double-sided tape.
Yes, definitely an important lesson. But like you said, thankfully it was during a time where there wasn't really social media and everything else.
Right.
It's funny. My son has never lived in a world without Wi-Fi. And, I try to tell him about the days of dial-up and everything else. And he looks at me like I just got off the mothership,
Right.
no understanding of how things were back in the day.
Right. Yeah. I tell everybody that. They're like, oh, you've been to Japan? You've been here? You've been there? Like, oh, and it's funny when people ask me, they're like, so do you ever want to go to WWE? Or would you like to be signed with, I'm like, so back in the day.
Yeah.
And there's, because when I went to Japan, there was no social media. There was, none when I went to Mexico. There's none of that. So now, like, I try to post stuff from like just the stuff that I find on the internet, and I try to put it all together, and I try to make reels about it. But it's, I don't have like matches from over there, and I don't have like a whole lot of material that I can post about it. So I don't like that part, but I wish I had more memories from back then.
Got you. Something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And so my guest last night posed this question, and this may be a somewhat difficult question, but I'll go ahead and ask this. As things stand today, if you could and had to sign with one of the big three, WWE, AEW, or TNA, which one would you sign with at this moment?
Well, I wish that there was I wish that you could just go to all of them, and experience each one.
Yeah.
That would be a wish of mine before I retire, is to step foot in just all of them, and just be able to have matches, or do a quick storyline or something, in each promotion before I retire.
Right.
And that would be something that would be, a dream that I could live out before I retire.
Gotcha. It's funny. Something that bothers me with present wrestling fandom is there is a lot of tribalism. There are people who are just diehard WWE or AEW fans, and they will actually openly root for the other company to fail.
Mm.
And I mean, to me, those are not real fans.
Right.
I love the business. I love wrestling, and I will never pull for a company to fail. I mean, because the more companies and the more diverse product that you have, the better for the business. And a rising tide lifts all ships.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and I love all of it, and unfortunately, there just aren't enough hours in the week to watch everything good that's out there.
Right.
So,
Right. And I totally agree with you. I think I would never want a good promotion to fail, because it just gives more opportunities for people to work. I mean, there's so many workers out there that don't ever get an opportunity because there's just not enough room.
Right.
And having to wait for an open spot is, it might never come.
Right. So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And the question does not have to be particular to him, but I can go ahead and tell you my next guest tomorrow night At 7, I've got episode 113 with a wrestler based out of Orlando, Florida by the name of Matthew Ennis. Like I said, it doesn't have to be particular to him, but do you have a question you would like to pose?
So what is it that they want to get out of this business?
So how would you answer that? What did you want to get out of this, and did you get what you wanted?
So I went into this business not even knowing that I wanted to even be in the business. So going through the business, now it's clear to me what I want to get out of this. And it's just to open doors for my daughter. Before I retire as well, I want to open doors and inspire her to keep going and go all the way, and show her that anything is possible in this business and to never give up.
That is awesome. I can tell your love for your children is so genuine. I mean,
It really is. I mean, they're everything to me. They are.
that is awesome. So, before we wrap this up, do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
Well, this weekend, my daughter and I actually are going to be in Canada, and we're wrestling for Hammerlock Pro Wrestling. It's a sold out show, I hear. And that's going to be this Saturday. And then after that, I am, let's see, my schedule is, what's the date? Okay. And then I'll be back in Georgia. And I don't really wrestle in Georgia a whole lot. And this is another thing that I try to tell everybody that's local is I don't wrestle here a lot at all.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do, because everybody always asks me, they're like, when are you going to wrestle locally? When are you going to wrestle locally? And I'm like, I never do. But it seems like I'm going to be wrestling May 17th here in Thomaston, Georgia. So people that are local to Georgia, I'll be here for old school wrestling. I was just at Deep South, which I haven't been for like a year. And then I'll be back in Pensacola, Florida on May 18th. Back at Deep South, May 25th. I'll be in Texas on June 7th. June 21st. I forget where I am. If you know, tell me. It's on the calendar, but there's no promotion next to it. Let's see. And then I'll be in Illinois, Alabama, and then somewhere along the line, I'll be back at WOW at the end of July. Hopefully.
Gotcha. So, who is your daughter? I would love to get her on the show.
Tsunami. Her name is
Tsunami.
Yes.
Okay. When we go off the air, I'll get her information from you because I'd love to get her on and get her perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as far as what we've got coming up here on the Throwdown, like I said, tomorrow night, Wednesday the 30th at 7 p.m., I've got episode 113 with Matthew Ennis. Interestingly enough, this Saturday, and normally I don't stream on the weekends, but this Saturday at noon, I have my second international episode. So Saturday the 3rd at 12 p.m. Eastern, I've got episode 114 with a tag team based in London, England by the name of The Ashes. And then this coming Tuesday the 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got another tag team, the Duke Boys, Algo Nelly and Corey Duke. And in general, I'm actually booked up through the month of May and starting to get into June. So this thing is just continuing to roll along. I'm having a blast doing these. And before we say goodnight, do you have any final words for the audience, Tracy?
Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you guys all so much for your support throughout the years. I know I have people coming up to me still at shows, amazed that I'm still out there working. And coming up to me and remembering who I am is awesome. So thank you for that. And thank you to everybody who follows and supports me on social media. And I hope to see you guys at some shows. So thank you.
Absolutely. And, thank you for your time. This has been such a pleasure. And, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and such, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. I've got a link tree on my Instagram, so all of my socials are on there. So if you're so inclined, please go to those and give me a follow. And like I said, this thing is really growing, and it's just exciting to see the progression of things. So until tomorrow night at 7 p.m., when I'll be back with Matthew Ennis, be good to each other, love each other, and let's keep throwing down.
Goodbye, and good night, bang.
Thanks for listening to episode 112 of The Throwdown with Matt. Tracy and I had a great time together. Among many other things, it was interesting to talk about the importance of variety in how professional wrestling is presented. As for what's coming, this Saturday, May 3rd, at a special early start time of 12 p.m. Eastern, I will be live with episode 114 with London, England-based tag team The Ashes, made up of Angelo Sciacca and Zaire. Tuesday, May 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be live with episode 116 with tag team The Duke Boys, made up of Algo Nelly and Corey Duke. Next Wednesday, April 7th, I will be live with episode 117 with pro wrestler and deathmatch specialist, the Hammer Lord, Jamie Jameson. Make plans to join us live on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter /X, Facebook, and Twitch, and interact. If you can't make it live, the videos will be available on those platforms, and the podcast will be available within a few days afterward. As always, if you like what we have going here, spread the word, follow me on my socials, leave comments, and maybe even drop us a review. Any or all of that will help us to continue to grow. Have a great rest of the week, and keep throwing down.